Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with some Orchis raids. But more importantly, guys, I want to showcase for you how to use the Bifrost team respectively to get through the first two nodes, because I just had a chance to finally try it, and I'm out of energy right now. But yeah, I actually was not having luck with Devpool. I've seen other folks try to use them, but the full Bifrost team, this actually seems to work better for myself. And I'll show you guys, if you just want to see my stats. By the way, the only character that's geared up is Val. Everybody else is either gear tier 14 or 15, but it's just very, very important. And keep in mind, this is new Orchis raids on Omega difficulty, difficulty 0. And it's important to focus on key enemies on these initial nodes in the meantime until the Night Stalkers team does come. So you want to start off the get-go by using Val's special on that right side. You really can't do much. Thankfully, she's the only one that's kind of geared up on our team, so she hits like an absolute truck. The other characters that we need to be mindful of in this node specifically is going to be the North Star that spawns later on, and as well that Nova. You want to make sure you take down that Nova before he gets his ultimate off, because if he does, you can't bring your characters back with his how his mechanic is actually provided for his ability. So be very, very mindful of that. Essentially, the Bifrost team is really here to support Val, and Val is just going to be killing and cleaning up and destroying everything in sight, on top of maintaining the revives on the team, because that's what you'll be seeing really. And we're up against with some pretty massive teams, right? You have Alpha Flight with the bonuses there. You got Captain Britain. So I'm just going ahead right now. The one thing to be mindful of too is because of Val having the power differential against these enemies, you may not have a chance to get as much exposure and therefore granting energy for Val. I definitely see that being a problem. So the North Star spawns here, and right from the get-go, we're just constantly just trying to generate energy on the exposure, but we're also targeting North Star because you want to be taking down North Star as soon as possible. If he gets his ultimate off, it can absolutely cripple the team. So thankfully, with the timing of how the attacks worked out, my ultimate landed right here. Boom, one-shotting both the Nova and as well as North Star, cleaning up here. And ideally, you're left with this last two here. This is where you want to be, because then you can kind of take your turns a little bit and generate some energy ability. But yeah, this is what worked for myself, guys. It seemed to work better than the Devpool variant for myself personally. But yeah, let me know what works for you guys. This is going to be some interesting times just to go through and experiment and see what works. But thankfully, it was nice to see that my 1.2 million Bifrost team can still get this done on difficulty 0. So for those of you in the alliances that aren't pushing as aggressively, this can get the job done still in the first node, including the second node as well, as you'll see pretty shortly here. So yeah, if you guys want to save value and wait on Bifrost, wait on Night Stalkers, you can at least min-max a bit here. Okay, so node 2, without question, this is definitely the harder node. I haven't had a chance to do the boss, but I just wanted to get this out for you because chances are, if you're doing all this with your alliance mates, you'll probably get through the boss node eventually. So I just wanted to get these two out for you guys, so that way you can at least have some sort of guide to go through. But yeah, we're starting things off. We don't really have a choice. We are up against the Gladiator that has the Safeguard and the Taunt. This new Annihilator's team's absolutely devastating. Very, very scary, because remember, these guys have lower levels than us. Thankfully, we were able to do a lot of our damage, as you can see from the get-go, with a Val special once again. If I had known that I was going to only take a couple attacks to wipe out Gladiator, I probably would have been a little bit more strategic with the abilities. But the one thing to be mindful of in this wave initially is you want to be taking down as many of the Spire Society and Cabal members as possible. It's just bad that they will get their synergy. But the other thing to watch out for is the endgame Thanos to the far right. Just because once you hit his 50% HP threshold, he's actually going to be taking away all your buffs as part of his mechanics. So just something to be mindful of there. So take your time here, and thankfully these waves aren't like crazy big too. There's only 13 enemies, which is actually, I think it's less than the incursion enemies that we're up against. But anyways, you'll see at 9 out of 13, it does spawn a pretty scary wave here in Gore, Quicksilver. So this is where having a more powerful Val is going to power you through, because you'll see that I'm going to target right from the beginning here Quicksilver. I know what he can bring to the table. He's a very, very scary enemy, especially against the turn meter, and being able to kind of rewind us as well. So we want to be very, very careful with Quicksilver. But the Spire Society is going to get a lot of synergy here, as you'll see with the multiple members now. And then as well, remember, Gore is also a fellow Annihilator character with the endgame Thanos, so they're going to have some synergies there. There's not much you can do here once their buffs go up, so you're really just trying to target down the middle. Thankfully, like I said, Val is very, very powerful. I just one-shotted the Quicksilver. I can see where this is going to be very challenging once the difficulty ramps up with these characters getting more stat boosts. But thankfully, Team Loki Ultimate giving us kind of a reset on HP. Unfortunately, Gord gets to use his abilities, and obviously that takes a bit from us, but thankfully we got the safeguard and everything, so that helps us out for sure. So you really don't want to be timing that, especially if you see that Gord is getting his turn. Now, there's not much you can do against these characters that have immunity, so I'm just going down, trying to target as many as I can. Once we have some of the beta variable retaliation attacks, we can get some exposures, but I think this is where this last wave is going to get pretty troublesome, just because you'll see Endgame Thanos still has not got utilized his passive yet on us, right? So we still have to get him below that 50%, and he's just kind of, you know, making do with his damage and doing work on us. Thankfully, his fellow Annihilator team is taken care of. So this Spire Society, though, they're getting their raid buffs, and you can see it triggered right there with the ability, so that actually hurt us quite a bit. So now we're not looking too pretty. You know, like I said, all my characters are actually gear tier 14 or 15, so it's really just Val, the one person show here, one army show, just trying to you know, shoulder the burden here and carry this team to the finish line. So at this point, I do appreciate Loki's damage, because, you know, using the mind control can use the enemy against us, which works in our favor here. So we try to do a little bit of damage, but you can see these enemies are just super tanky. With all the buffs and the safeguards, this is why Spire Society is one of the best teams in the game right now. And being up against them, they're just a really hard counter against Bifrost in this. So we really just gotta truck through it, maintain your focus here, and just try to hold through for the damage, because once Val gets the abilities off, we know she's more than capable to finish these guys off. So at this point, there's not much you can do. You just have to shoulder the burden, let them do their thing. I know they're generating ability energy. It can be frustrating to watch this, but you know, thankfully you watch right here. Boom, we got Val's ultimate for the second time. It's a must-have. You have to absolutely use each and every one of their abilities to keep this team alive, to bring them back, and that's really what's going to be the difference maker. I think Pegasus and Mystic, the Tech and Mystic sections have a chance, because both the teams, although they are fallen out of the meta, they have revive mechanics that can give us a fighting chance here. Having said that, obviously, if you have better characters like Mephisto, and maybe I was thinking of like even trying out characters like Ultimus, that can definitely be a difference maker. Definitely an opportunity for us to experiment, but it was cool to see that this team could actually take care of this node 2 in a pretty healthy manner. I must say. I'll still figure it out, but you can see here we're winding down in time, but in my eyes, if you can get through without dying, and it's a meaningful attempt that you see, can set us up here potentially for the boss node. Now, keep in mind, obviously, context is important. This is difficulty 0, the easiest one, so I expect it nonetheless. But yeah, it was nice to see at least Bifrost. It will scale, right? So my Bifrost is only 1.2 million. Which suggests that if you guys want to truck through later on, especially for the high-end alliances, you may need a bigger Bifrost until the Night Stalkers team is here, because we know Orchis Tech team is probably coming first, given how difficult it is on these new rates. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful, guys. This is nodes 1, nodes 2, using a pretty dinky Bifrost, and let me show you where they stack up, so that way you can see the stats for proof, right? So again, Val is pretty much the only built up character, and as you can see, every character is only level 75. So hopefully this is helpful. Thank you for your guys' time as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.